Greetings from Govardhan. Let me first just see if I can give you how we can do this. Oh, there's a darshan of the deities. What's nice here is you can just buy garlands. So in the morning, either on the way back from Govardhan Parikram, or let's see if this works. Or if I stay back a day, then while I'm doing my puja, I just walk 5 minutes and we buy some really beautiful garlands. Yeah. There's mogra, that's very fragrant. There's something else. Okay. This is an exceptionally small, so far, Sunday group, but this means it's very confidential and not everyone's qualified. Krishna's just joking, but it's not. Okay. 1 second. Okay. So I'm going to do the ending of the first part of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta again. And because last week, if you're on here, you heard there was a disturbance. So I didn't feel I can give the full concentration to end it in the proper way. And just a little bit more information is that it was a person, actually it was a Prabhupada disciple, who joined when he was 13 or 14 in Berry Street when Malati and all those were there. And I got to know him later in Vrindavan. So some bad things happened to him in England or something, and it just becomes real complex. But he considers me kind of a friend in a passive-aggressive way. And he came out all the way just to see me and had to find the ashram here. And I'm kind of aware of his nature, how when someone's disturbed, how he acts. It's not threatening in one sense, but it could be disturbing because he's the kind of person that, as you heard him barging in, he can cause a scene. And I'm like a child, like a tantrum. So I did meet him and he was very pacified and left peacefully. But it kind of created because normally in that, Jack was here, he just would have thrown him out. It would have been simple, but I knew better. And it had a good ending. So I think we should finish this again. Reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, chapter 7, text 151. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. As you probably kind of can sense, we have a nice group that's in Kartik together. Most people just going around, and that's such a surefire way to get spiritually elevated and enthusiastic, and we meet in the evening for kirtan in class and Damodarastakam. So I'll read, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 verses. We'll finish it. Svayaṁ yad-bhakti-māhātmyam itas tataḥ sānandaṁ gāyan yayau bhakti-lampaṭaḥ. Thus Nārada started on his journey to Prayāga, intoxicated with eagerness for pure devotion. Wherever he passed, he vibrated his vīṇā and blissfully sang the glories of Krishna-bhakti he had seen with his own eyes. Om jnana-timirandasya gananjana shalakaya chaksur unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayaṁ Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta dadati svapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let's, because it's the end, let's bring it to the beginning, and let's see if I can give just a kind of 5 minutes to come up to where we are. Sanatana Goswami has a task, and his task is to present the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And I've quoted that verse many, many times. Anarpita charim charat karunaya vitirna kalo samarpyatam unatoj valara svabhakti svayaṁ. He's to give to the world ecstatic. Lord Chaitanya's mission was to give to the world ecstatic love of himself. He's Krishna, but in the form to experience his own ecstatic love. Svabhakti svayaṁ. And which ecstatic love of himself? The highest ecstatic love of himself. The love of his topmost devotee, Sri Radha, at the height of her love. He gives this mission to Sanatana Goswami. And I think I quoted that verse, Tasya Parama Antim, this topmost thing. And Sanatana Goswami is trying to understand how he can possibly give something that Krishna has a hard time comprehending. Napareham, there's no way I can repay you. That's how great this love is. And he prays deeply to everyone. Because when you want to achieve something beyond your own capability, you can only achieve it by mercy. And mercy is attracted by humility. And the expression of humility is prayer. So he deeply prays, and he comes up with this realization of he's supposed to give the Bhagavatam. But his idea is he's got to give the Bhagavatam, but he's got to condense it. He's got to give a condensed form of the Bhagavatam that Lord Chaitanya really gets to that essence. So he is channeled or comes up with this remembrance of Maharaj Parikshit's grandson, Janamejaya, studying from Jaimini Rishi, and he's teaching him the Mahabharata. But he comes to realize that what a book is not its form, it's its message, because communication means you have to tailor the message to your audience. And I give the example, we have a Bhagavatam class. So the audience is supposed to give the Bhagavatam, but it's not just supposed to read the verses, it's supposed to understand the audience that he's speaking to, and in an interesting way, form that message so the audience becomes inspired. That's called realization. So he's hearing this Mahabharata, and then he gets this, understand, wait, this is different than the one I heard. Because this Mahabharata is so much more sweeter because it directly presents Krishna. And then he asks, is there a Kila? A Kila is kind of a book that sums it up. Just like the original Mahabharata, the Harivamsa is this expression. Is anything, the Mahabharata that I've heard by Vaisapayana, that Mahabharata, which is the one that we usually hear, the history of India, etc., that has this Harivamsa. Is there anything like this? So he says there is. And he begins to explain what that is. This commentary on this summary study, getting the essence of the Mahabharata that he heard, where Krishna is presented more forcefully, more beautifully and up front, not just as the warrior, but in a very deep, intimate way. And then he tells this story of this Kila or summary, and it's a very beautiful story that well, it's a story of how this summary was of this second Mahabharata, which is like the Bhagavatam, basically, how it was the story of how it was actually first spoken, and that was to Marge Prickett on the last day of his life. He probably has about half the day, 12 hours left. He heard the Bhagavatam. His mother comes, and she's so advanced, she wants to get a summary of what he heard. So he begins to explain this summary of the Bhagavatam, which is also the Kila of the second Mahabharata, which Jaimini Rishi gave. And that's called the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. And it's a story of Nārada Muni who's at Prayāga, and it begins with him a Kumbh Mela. I think there's the 145th there's every 12 years the Kumbh Mela, and then there's a special Kumbh Mela. It's this year. It's going to defy expectations. Just like I just explained at Radha Kund, when I first went to Radha Kund for Bahulashvami, there was a sprinkling of people there at midnight. Now there was 17 gates on the Radha Kund side. And just, chungis. What do you call them in English when you?
Yeah, barriers.
What?
These barriers.
Barriers, okay, like this. And there was 17 of them to get to the Kund. And I came at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we just walked right to the Kund, which was packed. I said, why were these things there? And then there was a metal barrier in between. So it was like a street. One side goes one and one goes the other. So I tried to figure, what's going on here? And then I figured it out. People wanted to pay at midnight, good luck. That you go from one barrier to another, and when the 200 or 300 policemen are there saw that there was enough room and enough people that left, then one group would come and the other barrier was there. So, what to speak, I went to Kumbh Mela when it was only 2-3 million people, maybe 30, 40 years ago. And it's amazing what Indians can do for God. They build roads with metal planks and electricity and all on the bank of this Triveni, three rivers. They have a huge bank. And, the last Kumbh Mela, there were 30 million people bathing on the auspicious day. And somehow or other it works. I cannot think that there's going to be less than 40 or 50 million people. How? It's possible. That's what the president of Russia came when he went to Delhi and went to Mumbai, and there's all these cars, but there's no stoplights. They have these rotundi things, and he said, how the hell is this all working? I can't figure it out. He said, I think there must be God. That's the only explanation. So the Kumbh Mela it's something that I'm not particularly attracted to go to. I can't even conceive of it. The trains, the cars, the planes, there's airports that we're flying in, and then certain people get priority. The Naga Babas or something, and it's a big ego thing. We're first, and they come in, and then it was very simple when I went there. You just went to the Triveni and jumped in. So anyway, he's at Prayāga, and it must have been, and what an amazing thing, because it's like this spiritual festival where all the sadhus, I spoke to the person, he came to visit me, he's a friend of mine who's organizing it for ISKCON. They have about a 3-acre camp in one of the main places because of our tradition for so many things. And it's amazing what they do, what they build, and the elaborate tents and the different things. There's one, he told me this, from Gokul, the Vallabhacharya. He has about 6 acres. It's going to be a palace, and all these. And Prabhupada said there's great mystics that can enter into the river in the Himalayas and come out in Allahabad. And it was pretty exciting when I was there, and we were doing Harinam and all the different camps and the different people. So it starts at Prayāga, and he goes for his journey. He's looking for the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy, and he's progressively meeting people with more and more intimate relationships with Krishna. Although at the end it mentions there's no formal difference. You don't judge the mother's incredible pure love with her son's romantic love. I mean, if you analyze one, the romantic love has something else, but you don't make any formal distinctions in love. A good friend is a good friend. A good parent is a good parent. A good lover is a good lover. You don't make any such distinctions, really. But in a certain way, there's more forcefulness and intimacy in romantic love. That's what's there. Anyway, it went, and we followed it, and lo and behold, what a brilliant summary of the Bhagavatam, because that's what the Bhagavatam is. It's descriptions of different systematic descriptions and understandings of different levels of intimacy until you get to the gopis. And by doing that, you understand bhakti in such a way, and you get purified in such a way that when you hear the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, you can understand and feel them as bhakti. Okay, can you give him his yeah, you don't even have to wash it. It's okay, just give it to him. It's such a charming part of our class, isn't it? That he shows up at this new window I have. Yeah. And you can feed the rest of the rotis to the cows. Okay. The ninja is a very nice man. He's a very nice man. I read a tape where Prabhupada said that you allow servants to steal. and because the thing is, in India, they don't pay servants anything. So the people who have servants, they don't mind if they take a little extra or something. So I don't get upset anymore. I don't think he steals, but I don't ask for bills when he sends something to the Dobie or something. You know, who knows? They can't get like, oh, where's this and this. It's already such a bargain. So anyway, we followed the whole thing, and then Nārada came into Dwarka. We know how Krishna went into this catatonic type state, and we know the arguments among when Uddhava said, I'm not a devotee, he pointed to the gopis, and then they all had their opinions of whether they're fortunate enough, but each opinion highlighted their glory. Because one said, how can they be the greatest devotees? They're suffering so much. But what were they suffering from? Separation from Krishna. And the others said, no, they're the most fortunate devotees. They always remember you. So from either way. And then we came to the point, one of the final things, we know the thing with Satyabhama, but we'll get right to the point today, that Nārada was very upset. He thought he caused this disturbance. He wasn't going to come in to see Krishna as he usually just, as you see in this verse, he's intoxicated with eagerness for devotion, and he's so spontaneous. He wasn't. He was a little hesitant. And he's the guru of everyone. And then Krishna told him that, no, this is the greatest thing, this separation. Superficially, it seems like suffering, but it's the greatest ecstasy. Or we actually feel that suffering, but it's not really as connected to the soul as the ecstatic love it causes, something like that. And then this is Narada's experience in his journey. And then they sit him down and they feed him, and and then he's off. And he's achieved his journey. He was looking for the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy, and now he saw it from so many different perspectives, from Uddhava, from Krishna's instruction to Satyabhama, but Krishna's response to him coming and fainting and having to go to Nava Vrindavan to be revived, and the whole thing. And now what does he do? He wants to give it to others. And I think this is a principle of bhakti, that there has to be madhurya and there has to be audarya. Madhurya is sweetness, audarya is magnanimity. And I once heard a description from a sadhu in Vrindavan, and he described that Radha and Krishna are enjoying the most intimate love. There's always, but when they want to give that love to others, then the audarya or magnanimity rises above the madhurya or the intimacy. And then Radha Krishna become Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's not that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is audarya and Radha and Krishna madhurya. It's just in Radha and Krishna, the madhurya is prominent, in Chaitanya, the intimacy of love, and in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the audarya, the magnanimity. So now, naturally, it's there. Prabhupada even in one purport in the Bhagavatams, usually people say, you preach, you become purified, and then you can start realizing your relationship with Krishna. But what Prabhupada says almost is that when you realize your relationship with Krishna, by spiritual impetus, you desire to give it to others. So that's what's happening here with Nārada. He has this spiritual impetus now to actually give it to others. So he's svayaṁ yad-bhakti-māhātmyam. the glories of bhakti, sānandaṁ blissfully, vīṇayā with his vīṇā, gāyan singing, he's giving what he's seen with his own eyes. Tatpitam bhukata svayaṁ śrutva tan na mahabhutam sarasangrahino shesham anyat sadhya juhurdajam. When the sages at Prayāga heard the whole wonderful account from the mouth of Nārada, they once and for all gave up all interest in everything other than Krishna, for they able to grasp the essence of what has value. So at the Kumbh Mela, there were great sages, but bhakti can be mixed with jnana. Jnana Mishra Bhakti means that you perform austerities and pranayam and all to purify yourself so you can full concentration on Krishna. Or gyan can mean that there's like Nārada Muni, there's a desire. Like Nārada Muni, there's a desire. His original, when he got Sakshat Darshan, and then the second time he didn't get it, he was told that there was a material taint. And what was that material taint? Yeah, I think for today they may need to take rest or something. Usually we're not. That's okay, not a problem. 90% of the time they're great. There's some planets today and you gave them too much ice cream or something, whatever. No, we have this family here and they're great. They have three children, the mother and father, and the kids sit quietly, except for today. So we don't mind. But maybe she should just take them back for today, and then they can try it for tomorrow. Okay. Those are two younger, with the 10-year-old girl sits quietly and takes notes. Very impressive. Okay. So it's potency. He had such deep realization. This is not an ordinary thing. He's gone through all these stages, observed bhakti at different levels. I was saying Nārada Muni, his material taint is that he was attached to the Himalayas. He was attached to peacefulness rather than service. So he had to go and actually, he was incomplete in service. And incomplete in service didn't mean that he didn't do enough service. It meant the attitude. He was tinged, and I say we should only be so lucky. He was tinged with the mode of goodness, a desire for peacefulness, which is not the purest desire. The purest desire is to serve. So he still had that. So you can imagine these different sages at different levels of advancement and attainment and etc. And then Nārada Muni goes and he himself becomes kind of enlightened by this and what he sees and what he realizes. And then he comes back with such enthusiasm, and that conviction in his heart is expressed in such a powerful way that all those original friends of his at Prayāga, they gave up any desire they had in their spiritual life for karma or gyan, for attainment maybe to a higher planet. There's so many great sages for impersonal liberation, or for shantaras, just peacefulness. They gave it all up. Why? Because they were able to grasp. They gave it up because they were able to grasp sada. Sada means, sada is the cream. Right? The cream is at the top. They were able to grasp sada sangrahina. They became people who could grasp the essence. And this is also consistent with our philosophy, bahunam jambanam ante, jnanavamam prapadyate, vasudeva savamiti, samahatma sadulava. Bahunam jnanis, after many, many years, they can come to this realization. In fact, the Jaiva Dharma, there's a story of Jaiva Dharma of an impersonalist sannyasi. It starts with this impersonal sannyasi. And this great devotee comes by, and he's singing, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari. And he's in his meditation, and he kind of hears this. And because he's so pure and he's not envious, and he has no attachment in the world, it enters into his heart. He gets the bhakti-lampaṭaḥ bij. Just like we can get the bhakti-lampaṭaḥ bij. Anyone can get the bhakti-lampaṭaḥ bij. It's that conviction that comes from an experience of contact with God. So you can imagine in the association of Narada Muni and in these non-envious type people who are great sadhus and sages from thousands of years ago at Kumbh Mela, and then they get Narada Muni's association, and he's singing on his vīṇā. He's singing kirtan, he's singing Hare Krishna kirtan on his vīṇā. What that must sound like in his enthusiasm. You see, because the previous verse was saying, he sānandaṁ vīṇayā gāyan, he was singing blissfully about what? Māhātmyam anubhūtam, the glories that he of bhakti that he personally experienced. He went through this whole experience in a profound, deep realization and conviction. And I guess when he came back into that assembly of those people, who at the beginning were shown to be non-envious, because at the very beginning you see the quality that they had is they were all glorifying each other as being, you're the greatest devotee, no, you're the greatest devotee. So they already had so much qualification. But jnana karma dhyānavritam, they were still covered by karma or jnana to some degree. They didn't come to the point of anyabhilashita shunyam, no other desire than service to God. There was still some tinge, and now that was all gone. But by Narada Muni's and then what happened? Then kevalam paramam danyam. And then they entered a mood of supreme humility. And again, we describe what happened. This becomes such a thirst for bhakti that one feels, I don't have it. When you have thirst, you don't feel you have water. When you have thirst for bhakti, you don't feel you have it. It creates this incredible humility. And how intense is that thirst for bhakti? And therefore, how deep is this humility? And avalam vyasa sikshaya, and then what did they do? They began now to worship the deity in this higher consciousness, and they're instructed by Narada Muni. So they began worshiping the deity in pure bhakti. Purport, it's an axiomatic principle of devotional science that until one rejects everything insubstantial, one cannot grasp the essence of reality. So that we're discussing before, reality is a crossword puzzle, because we have all these little attachments, etc. And of course, we work through them, we purify ourselves. Not everybody can renounce the world. We dedicate everything to God, but the heart does become purified. And everything else except Krishna, gradually. And these sages, graced with Nārada with ultimate alignment, now obtain total humility required for entrance into the mystery of prema bhakti. By honestly thinking themselves unworthy of worshiping the personality of God as lotus feet, they earn the priceless treasure of his favor. Mata gopa kishoram tam tvam charasa rasam buddhim tat prema mohi tabisri gopi bir abito britam amusham dasyamichanti tadrisha prema bhangibhi nityam bhajashvatam nama sankirtana parayana. Dear Mother, now the story is going all the way back, because it's all being narrated to his mother. She wanted to hear the essence of the Bhagavatam. Now basically the story's completed. And Jamini Rishi is narrating this aspect of it, that the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is spoken by Parikshit to his mother Uttara. She just wants to hear the Bhagavatam. He only has 12 hours, not 7 days. Dear Mother, you as well should always worship this young cowherd boy. He is the ocean that yields the nectar of the rasa dance, in which divine gopis fully surround him, entranced by pure love. You should cherish the desire to be a servant of these gopis. You should constantly worship him in pure love as they did, and you should dedicate yourself to the sankirtan of his names. So that's the process. The process is turning towards Krishna in a concentrated way and feeling our connection with Krishna by focusing on the holy name and working on that and purifying ourselves of that and gradually becoming attracted to that and absorbed in that. And then in that name, which is not different than Krishna, is his form, qualities, pastimes, and perhaps even ourselves in our relationship with Krishna. Having finished his story, Parikshit is summing up the lessons his mother should learn. She should absorb herself fully in Krishna consciousness, which in all of its countless varieties derives from and reflects the most perfect love of the gopis who join Krishna in his rasa dance. God in his original form is a young, playful cowherd, and in this form he enjoys his original pleasure. When the Supreme Lord appears in any other form, that appearance is secondary, manifest to satisfy particular devotees. So Krishna is svayaṁ Bhagavan. He's God at home. He's the full manifestation. And then to satisfy other relationships, he may appear in other ways, just like we go out and have different things outside of the home. We have to assume different persona, maybe as a head of something, or maybe as a subordinate of something, or after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit understood this transcendental fact to make his mother also understand that he has recounted this first part of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. There's 2 more parts. Perhaps Mother Uttara, the widow of Krishna's nephew, might feel uncomfortable assuming the mood of the gopis, at least in public. So we don't know the mood of the gopis or the form of the gopis. The mood is most important, the bhav. And the bhav is of service. And in a particular way, but as Prayāga here points out, the principal method for becoming a servant of the gopis of Vrindavan is Krishna-nam Sankirtan, immersing oneself in hearing and chanting the names of the divine cowherd boy of Vraja, especially the name Krishna. This is the best means to practice worshiping him in pure love, and it is the symptom of one who has achieved the treasure of prema. So the holy name is the sadhana and it's the sadhya. You chant to get prema, and out of prema you chant. So, 5 more verses. Gopinam mahima kaschit tasame pishakyate namaya swamukhe kartum merur makshikaya yata. I cannot describe with my own words even one of the glories of the gopis, any more than a mosquito can swallow Mount Meru. Aho Krishna, Aho Krishna, Vasavishta, Sada Mamani Kirtayet, Krishnasya tat priyanam cha, Vaishma adinam guru mama. Oh, but my spiritual master is fully absorbed in loving moods of serving Krishna. He can constantly glorify Krishna's names and those of Rukmini and Krishna's other beloved devotees. The spiritual master is Sukadeva Goswami. So he said, my guru is absorbed in this. Because this is Prayāga talking. The gopis were consumed by the expansive flames of the wondrous blazing fire of love for Krishna. If my guru chants the names of those gopis and recalls a gopi's distinguishing qualities, he too is touched by sparks shooting forth from the flames of this intense fire, and he once becomes greatly agitated. Therefore he has to avoid pronouncing the gopis' names. So Sanatana Goswami is explaining why Radharani's names is not in the Bhagavatam. In fact, I'm not going to go over this purport, but there's about 10 verses that refer to Sukadeva Goswami referring to the gopis, but never referring to a particular name, because it's too emotional for him. And he's focused on his service. If Sukadev utters any of the gopis' names, his heart is once filled with remembrance of the gopis, and the scorching flames of viraha bhav make him unable to concentrate on his service. So we already understood that how powerful it is when you have attachment, and not just attachment, but spontaneous attachment to God. How deep that is, and how powerful and overwhelming is the feelings of separation. So he said, therefore, while reciting Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Maharaj Prayāga avoided mention the gopis by name. And there's so many verses there, you can look it up yourself if you have the book, but one of the gopis, while meditating on her previous association with Krishna, saw a honeybee before and imagined that it was a messenger sent by her beloved. Thus she spoke to the bee. So that's Radharani, but he won't mention the name. If you follow my advice and with pure love take shelter of the gopis and their master, Lord Sri Krishna, then, O Mother, I promise that by Krishna's mercy, you will be able to understand something of the gopis' greatness. Purport. Without first scientifically understanding the special qualities of the gopis that distinguish them from everyone else, one cannot develop the true desire to become a servant of the gopis, nor beyond that, one can realize the supreme truth of their ecstatic love of Krishna. With this idea in mind, Parikshit offers this promise to his mother. In what he had spoken, he could not have explained to her everything about the gopis' glories, nor could she have been expected to understand completely what he had told her. To gradually realize this deep subject matter, she would have to follow the standard process of devotional meditation. First, she would have to begin practicing worship of Krishna while following in the footsteps of the gopis, as her son had outlined in his narration. By this practice, she would acquire some partial understanding. That understanding would help her worship become mature, which in turn would allow her to know the transcendental reality in more detail, so that finally she would achieve the perfection of prem bhajan. In this way, by worshiping the Supreme Lord, one comes to know the greatness of the gopis, and by knowing the greatness of the gopis, one advances in worship of the Lord. This Shastra, Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, declares throughout that pure devotional service to Krishna can be realized only by one who has a specific knowledge of both the personality of Godhead and the process of bhakti. Nonetheless, when one has learned the glories of the gopis, the greatest of all the Lord's devotees, one will automatically understand the Lord and his devotional service without any other effort. Etan mikayana varam maha harer karunya saralaya nishchayartakam yadsadhaya samriyate katanchana prapnoti tat prema tataiva so param. With the help of this most excellent narration about the Supreme Lord, which shows who has received the essence of the Lord's mercy, one can understand him for certain. Anyone who for any reason takes shelter with faith of this narration will quickly attain love for Lord Sri Krishna. So this is called the full Shruti. This is the fruit of hearing. And the purport, which is the last purport in this section, to Parikshit's promise, Srila Sanatana Goswami now adds his own. By taking so now it goes beyond the Maharaj Parikshit in that story and beyond Jaimini Rishi who's narrating it. And it goes back to the original, which is Sanatana Goswami, because it started with Sanatana Goswami's mission and his prayers to achieve it. So now this ends with his. This sequence, by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord's devotees, one can understand their special glories, which further leads one to enter particular methods of devotional worship and finally attain pure love for the Lord. This sequence of perfection is wonderful enough in itself, but even more wonderful is that one can achieve the same perfection simply by hearing the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta with faith. The purpose of this book is to make known how Sri Krishna Chandra, the original personality of Godhead, acts as the unlimited source of super excellent compassion. Sincere readers will quickly rise to the goal of Krishna Prem, especially when they conscientiously follow the authorized principles of sadhana bhakti. Thus ends the 7th chapter of part 1 of Srila Sanatana Goswami's Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, entitled Purna, the complete perfection. Thus ends part 1. Okay, let's see if anybody more came. Wow, gradually people did come. It started out with so few and now we're back up there. Okay, Jamuna Jaya usually start off by
All right, Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for class, and thank you for taking us on this journey. I was so happy you went back to the beginning today because it's been such a long journey. I've forgotten part of it, but there's a lot of points. But two things I wanted to think about, I was thinking that here's King Pritchett uh, telling his mother to take shelter, and it's almost like she's the one that saved him, you know, from the weapon in the womb, and now he has this opportunity to serve his mother in this beautiful way. So I was just really reflecting on that he's saving his mother. Mother, do this, as she once saved him. So I love that point in my head. And then
Nice point.
I, yeah, I just really, there was this sweetness in that. And then I love the point at which you said about when the Oduya almost takes the Midoriya, that's Lord Chaitanya, that the mercy almost overtakes the sweetness. And so it is this mood of giving away that Lord Chaitanya so modeled for us and is the key. So,
Yeah, it's not that one's Odarya and one's Madhurya. It's just the magnanimity is above the sweetness, and the sweetness is above the
Better.
magnanimity. And then Radha and Krishna become Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Vrindavan becomes Mayapur.
mm,
Okay,
thank you, Raj.
okay, Gail, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, just I think I asked you this recently, but can you just say again what it really means to hear a narration with faith?
Hear it with faith. Yeah, Shivram Swami wrote a whole commentary on this, hearing with faith, and he sent it to me, and I gave him some feedback. So let me see if I can remember it. Well, faith is two things. It's an understanding and it's an experience. So hearing it with faith, I think it's the whole Bhagavatam is meant to hear it with faith. So what happens when you go through the first 9 cantos? You get an understanding. So you can hear it with trust, not in a mundane way. And then by going through the 9 cantos, you get an experience of bhakti. So in other words, I think what happens, and the whole purpose of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, is that when you go through these different stages of devotion, two things happen. One, you see devotion in so many different shapes and forms that when you see it in Radha and Krishna, you can also see devotion there. And the other thing is, you develop an experience of devotion so that when you see Radha and Krishna, the thing that sparks you first is the devotion. And we have that experience sometimes by being here in Braj, going around Govardhan and going to Kirtan and seeing the devotee, especially when you go on a retreat and you're so concentrated, you get a feeling of devotion. And then when that feeling of devotion is in your heart, and then you see Radha and Krishna, you feel, oh, this is devotion. But if you don't have that, you'll just see this is boy and girl. So I think that faith is an understanding and an experience, which comes from the other cantos.
You just mentioned that, okay, like when you hear the first 9 cantos with trust, what did hearing them with trust?
Well, initially you hear them with faith. That's another thing, that you accept them, you accept the authority of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just like William James in the Varieties of Religious Experience, he said, if a young boy loves a young girl, he has to have faith. If a young boy thinks a young girl loves her, he has to have faith that she does, otherwise he'll never find out. So at the same sense, unless you have some faith, you will never go beyond your limited frame of reference.
Yeah.
So so there's different ways. The faith okay, we have an experience coming to Krishna consciousness. As Hari Kirtans gave that nice analogy, rather than judging the Gita by your perspective, you see the world through the Gita.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you have this epiphany that this is like a lens of knowledge. And it's like going to a doctor, when you have a good experience, then you trust them. And unless you trust them, you can't take their advice and experience the depth of their authority. So unless you have some preliminary trust, you can't experience the depth of the authority of the Bhagavatam. But I'm saying then the faith increases.
Mm-hmm.
And has to increase to an experience, a depth of experience of bhakti, that the first thing that incites you in Radha and Krishna is devotion.
Okay. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay, anyone else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Jai Shri Radhe, Haribo.
Thank you so
Wow.
much for the class. I wanted to ask a question, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
You mentioned during one of the classes that Kartik is the month of Srimati Radharani. And
Yeah.
I was always thinking that Kartik is the month of little Damodar Krishna. Can you please explain it to me?
I'll have to research it.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else like to say hello? Yudhisthira, Haribo.
Haribo, how are you?
Good, we're missing you at the Govardhan Hill.
And I tuned in just so I could feel the vibe.
Yeah, okay, great to see you.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on that other topic. I'm having a Zoom with Maharaj.
Okay.
So
okay.
we'll work it. I think confidently we'll work it out because.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
So, thank
Okay,
you
great.
very much.
Okay, Haribo. Haribo, anybody else? Say hello. Bhakti, is that you?
Yes, Maharaj, I'm sorry. I was having trouble getting my mute off. How are you? So good to see you.
Okay, good to see you. Are you in Brooklyn or upstate?
And now I'm upstate.
Okay.
And I'm leaving for a big trip next Sunday, and I'll be in Vietnam for 3 weeks. I'll tell you, give you a full report when I get back.
Well, one of your god sisters in Vietnam, maybe you want to visit her.
You have to send me her contact information.
Yeah, wait 1 second. Jagannath Priya lives in Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the mystery of you going to Vietnam now that the war's over.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Okay, anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. It's Lal Govinda. Thank you for class.
Where's your better half?
She's in Rishikesh and on her way to Govardhan tomorrow.
Govardhan tomorrow. Okay, that's nice.
I think that's what she said. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Haribo.
Haribo.
Okay, kṛṣṇa-bhakti, Haribo.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. It was so important for me also to hear that magnanimity prevails sometimes and sometimes sweetness. So it's such wonderful pastimes. Thank you for this book, explanations, for your taste. Thank you greatly.
Okay. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta here.
Hey, Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Haribo. Okay, great. Good.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Haribo. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Shalom. Haribo. Anybody else? Okay. Just look through the list of all the people that came today, and we will end. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva